Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a sweet spring card. This features some brand new products from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of watercolor with the Sketchmarker Aquas once again. But before we get to the card, I did want to walk you through this fabulous spring release from the Essentials by Ellen line. This is available exclusively at ellenhudson.com, but there is so much goodness in here. I thought I would just flip you through the products in this release real quick. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, and you're going to see me use several of them today, but I did want to show them to you quickly. Now, if you've been around for any length of time, you know I am a big fan of the Essential Shapes from the Essentials by Ellen line, and there is a brand new Essential Shape. This is the Essential Eggs. It's available in the dies, the hot foil plates, as well as the stitching dies, and all of these three products coordinate together. They work beautifully together. There are several standalone dies as well as hot foil products in this release as well, but I love that they've included not only hot foil products, but a good variety of stamping and some products that complement previous products that were released, like that little carrot add-on for the pyramid box. Now, this is the one that's going to be the star of the show today. That is the Sweet Spring, and I'm also going to be using this Elegant Egg stamp set. This So Cute Bunny die is another addition to kind of those plushy style dies that the Essentials by Ellen line has several of already. And then finally, there is this skinny stripe 6x6 stamp. Now this is great because you can stamp it one way and create stripes, and then you can turn it 90 degrees and you can stamp it again to create a beautiful little gingham for spring. I think that is so much fun. So I'm going to actually start out by selecting several of the images from the Sweet Spring stamp. I'm loading them into my Mini Misty, and I'm going to stamp these on some Bristol Smooth cardstock using the Gina Amalgam ink in Obsidian. It is one of my favorite black inks. I'm just going to press that down with my Pink Fresh Studio stamp press, and I have a beautiful outline. Now, because I am going to be watercoloring, I do want to just heat set this ink very quickly so that I make sure that I'm not going to get any smudges. When this ink is dry, it is waterproof. So I just want to make sure that it's dry before I go into adding water on top of it. Now for my watercoloring today, I'm going to be using the Sketchmarker Aquas, and you may have seen me use these recently on my channel. These are a great watercolor marker that has a dual tip. It has a brush end as well as a fine nib, and I am just scribbling some of the color onto a piece of acrylic that I have here so that I can pick up the color using my water brush or my blender pen. And I can do this in a couple of ways here to add color. First of all, I'm going to start with the marker directly on the paper, just adding a little color there. And then I'm going to go in with my water brush. This is included in the set of Sketchmarker Aquas, or if you have your own paintbrush and water, you can do that as well. And I'm just using that water brush to blend out the color. Then I'm going to go to that little makeshift palette that I have there, and I am going to pick up some of the ink. Now, the ink that I pick up with the brush is going to be a little less intense. So it's going to give me that really beautiful shaded edge, and automatically the ink that I pick up from the palette is going to be a little more watery because I'm picking it up with water. I'm not just blending it out with water. So this allows me to get this really beautiful watercolor look, and you can see I'm doing this beautiful, it's kind of like a blue-green color. It really reminds me of the Distress color Speckled Egg, and I will have the colors used listed in the coordinating blog post for this. But you can see it gives me a really beautiful watercolor effect on these egg pieces. Now I'm going to continue to watercolor these images. For the bunny, I'm actually using a very light gray. It's there on my palette, and you can see I'm just adding it in certain places to give the bunny a little bit of shading. I want the bunny to be white overall, but even with whites, there are shadows. So I'm just taking a very light gray called Fog from the set and just blending out along kind of some shadow lines. And I'll add a little bit of pink to his cheeks as well as his ears. Now, overall, my goal is just to keep the watercolor simple and soft. And by picking it up from the palette with this little water brush here, that's helping me keep my colors very soft. Now keep in mind, I can add layers of color. So if I dry this back and something's not intense enough, I can go back in and kind of build up the color if I choose to do that. But this was really quick and easy. I love the beautiful watercolor effects. It just feels very springy to me when you use watercolor in the spring. I'm not sure why. But once I have this all watercolored, I am going to hit that with my heat tool, line up the coordinating dies and run this through my die cut machine. And then I will have all of my images ready to go for a card. Now, I know that I don't do a lot of like scene critter cards very often, but this little set was just so sweet. I really felt like I wanted to use that. I was very inspired by it. And when I'm inspired by something, it makes me want to create. And so that's exactly what I'm doing here today. Now I took another piece of that Bristol Smooth cardstock and I die cut it using the Essentials by Ellen landscape die. This gives me a little grassy border, and I'm blending on some Catherine Pooler Matcha ink. Now I have another piece of Bristol Smooth, and that's because I really wanted all of my whites to match. And I am using this kind of speckled stamp from the Elegant Eggs stamp set, and I'm stamping it onto this Bristol Smooth cardstock using some hot tub ink from Catherine Pooler. Now I'm kind of getting all the things lined up and figuring out where I want everything. I have this adorable sentiment from the Ears to You stamp set. I'm going to stamp it on this little grassy hill that I created. I'm going to do a tone on tone effect. So I'm using the Catherine Pooler Matcha ink again. And this little sentiment says, "No bunny compares to you." And I thought that was very sweet. And I did want to build up the color just a little bit to make it a little more intense on that grassy hill, so I double stamped it using my Misty stamping tool. Now I have one of the Essentials by Ellen Essential Rectangle dies, and I'm lining that up with my grassy piece and my background here. I'm running that through my die cut machine to trim all of these down, give me a nice edge, and that allowed me to kind of center up that speckle pattern where I want it. And then I can start assembling my card. So I'm adding my little grassy piece onto the bottom of this rectangle using some foam adhesive, and I will use quite a bit of foam adhesive on this card because I don't really shy away from that. And then I added my bunny on to the card front using some foam adhesive as well. And I did do a single layer of foam adhesive under his feet and a double layer of foam adhesive under his head so that he will be popped up off of that grassy hill just a bit. I added all of my other little elements, and I had that one little flower there. I couldn't figure out where to put it, so I didn't use it. But I did want to bring a little bit of pattern to the background of this card. So I have some Hero Arts Antique Ivory cardstock, and I am going to use this Skinny Stripes background because it's so stinking cute. I've lined it up and I've added my cardstock into my Misty using a Misty sticky mat. And that's just going to allow me to hold that in place without having a magnet in my way. But because these stripes are so skinny, I wanted to make sure everything stamps as straight and vertical as possible. So I'm using my Misty sticky mat to help me do that. And I made sure that my stamp was really well lined up in my Misty. So I added my card front onto that stripe piece after I cut it down using a little bit of foam adhesive. And then I added that to a top folding A2 size ivory card base. And I'm going to finish off my card with just a few little sparkling clear sequins scattered throughout just to give it a little shine and catch the eye. And that finishes off my really simple and sweet watercolor spring card featuring the brand new release from the Essentials by Ellen line. I will have a link to this entire release in the YouTube description below. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure to check it out. Or head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have the coordinating blog post linked below. Over there, you're going to find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, as well as some information on an Instagram hop celebrating this new release from the Essentials by Ellen line. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. And I would love for you to comment below and let me know which of these new products is your favorite. Thanks so much for watching. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.